This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss everything in the wide world of sports. My name is Ben.
My name's Alex.
Hey, and I'm Anthony.
We are back here on a Wednesday, halfway through the traditional work week. And guys, we got a lot to talk about because tonight we will be having history made after the Cubs defeated the Cleveland Indians in Game 6 of the World Series last night, 9-3. We are headed to Game 7. We're going to have a World Series champion between these two teams for the first time since 1946. A long, long time in between both these teams. So history will be made tonight.
They listed the days, like the amount of days in between these championships.
You have it up. I heard it. I heard it this morning. I know it's like roughly 25,000 for the Indians and roughly 40,000 for the Cubs.
Yeah, you're not far.
I said roughly. I mean,
yeah, no, there's like 39,000 and like 24,000, so you're not far off. When I can, I will find the exact numbers for you.
So while Alex looks that up, we're going to be reviewing Game 6 of the World Series on this show, as well as previewing tonight's matchup for Game 7. Definitely a historic matchup and going to draw a lot of ratings tonight. In addition, we'll be talking some college football. We had our first college football playoff poll, our top 25 revealed last night. Kind of some surprising news near the top, so we will discuss that and the rest of the rankings. And then we will end the show today with some trending stories. I know Alex has one about a particular running back in the NFL. I have some World Series news, and then Anthony has some great stuff as well. So we will end the show with that. But we got to talk about the World Series first. Like I said, we had Game 6 last night. The Cubs defeat the Cleveland Indians 9-3, Anthony.
Yeah, it was just from the get-go, 7-0 by the end of the third inning. It was one of those games that, if you're a Chicago Cubs fan, you just wanted to feel kind of happy to start the game. You didn't want to be in fear going into the 8th and 9th inning. And by the end of the third, 7-0, you were pretty sad. Not still 100% sure why they brought Chapman in late in the game. They already had a sizable lead to begin with. He got an inning in the third, gave up a run, yanked him soon. I think he gave up a walk to start the inning. They took him out. But, whether it's Brian who got a home run, Rizzo got a home run, Russell got a home run, like everybody was kind of doing what you would hope they would do. Now you're going to a Game 7. And if Cleveland wins, is it Kluber's pitching tonight, he's probably going to be the World Series MVP. If it's Chicago, maybe anybody I just talked about, if Schwarber goes off, maybe he gets it. If Zobrist gets a home run, he's got a .391 batting average. Maybe they give it to him. But this Game 7 is going to be a lot of fun. You said it's going to be a massive ratings. I think it said something like, for Sunday they outdrew Sunday Night Football. So, this whole, 68-year and 108-year, I think it is, matchup between the both of them, that's just bringing in everybody, and Game 7 should be a lot of fun.
So officially for the Cubs, at least, it's 39,466 as of today days.
I was around back then. It wasn't that long ago.
Seems like yesterday, right?
Yeah, I can recall that day in my head right now. So
it was a Tuesday.
Yeah, a Tuesday in 1908. It was sunny. It was clear outside. So
You sure wasn't dusty outside?
It was pretty clear.
Dust Bowl-like?
No, but so yeah, Addison Russell ties a World Series record last night with 6 RBIs. He did have the grand slam in the third inning, but this game right away in the first inning got kind of dicey. You had the double by Russell where the outfielders there, Alex puts air quotes, because they both were like, oh, okay, you can get it, but way I thought you were getting it. It kind of just drops in between them with 2 outs and scores 2 runners. So that was kind of like, what exactly happened there? So they get 2 runs right off the board there. They get the grand slam from Russell. Before you even knew it, like you said, Anthony, it was 7-0, and then it was kind of just smooth sailing from there. You mentioned Chapman coming in, and Chapman came in there in the 7th inning with a 5-run lead with runners on first and second with 2 outs. and everybody's kind of questioning Joe Maddon's decision there. I can understand kind of his thought process in bringing in Chapman. He wanted to absolutely slam the door. He didn't want to give the Indians any chance of possibly coming back because you have runners on first and second. If you get maybe a gapper that scores 2 runs, so your 5-run lead goes to 3. So I guess I can understand it, but I think ultimately I would not do the same thing because I think it sends 2 messages. Number 1, bringing in Chapman says to your bullpen that, hey, I don't really trust you guys. I need to go to my closer right now in a non-save situation in the 7th inning because I don't think you guys can get it done. And 2, I realize Aroldis Chapman only threw 20 pitches, so that's not much longer than a normal outing would be in a 1-inning save situation. But he went 42 pitches and almost 3 innings on Sunday. You have 20 pitches last night. He kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit. I don't see him going any longer than an inning tonight if you need him to. He kind of lost his command there at the end. He got out of the inning with a double play, the 8th inning. So I realize only 20 pitches, but I mean, he's maybe a little sort of damaged by that ankle. Maybe his command's a little shaky. I just don't think that was necessarily a good decision. I think it shows a message to your bullpen that I don't think you guys can get me 1 out to get out of the 7th inning.
Well, Joe Maddon said after the game that he saw the part of the lineup that was coming up for the Indians, and it was really their meat of the lineup, and he says, I'm not playing for if there's a tomorrow. I'm trying to make sure there's a tomorrow. So, they won the game. He did what he needed to do to win. I don't think he should have been coming into the 9th. I don't know why he was out there for that moment, but I thought he pitched fine when he was in there. He got what he needed to get. That kind of happens with him when he's in there for a little while longer than his normal amount of time his command kind of goes. But I think he's fine. I think he's fine to go. I think he's fine to pitch, an inning and a half tonight if he needs to, which is where you want him to be pitching anyway because he's typically your closer. And I think, he's been the best in the World Series. Any guy who's the best currently, you're going to want to put in there. So sorry to the rest of the bullpen, but that's who he is currently. Nobody can really touch him when he comes in. So I don't think it's a huge thing to the bullpen like, oh, you guys suck, you haven't done anything for me. It's like, hey, he's my best, you guys are good, but they haven't touched him this entire World Series, so I'm putting him in right now.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Maddon doesn't necessarily care about both of them. Maddon and Francona, They don't care about the closer being the 9th inning guy. You can bring him in the 7th inning because you said heart of the lineup, and you want to get out those guys because if the 7th inning guy comes in and blows it, you being a closer means nothing. Like all of a sudden it's tied. Congratulations, good job, you're the closer. What are you doing now?
It's like in the ALCS. I'm not even getting your best pitcher in the game.
Right. It's like what we yelled at, what's his name? Baltimore's manager.
Yeah, Buck Showalter.
Showalter, yeah.
About Zach Britton.
Yeah, about not even getting him into the game. Well, you're not going to be able to yell at Maddon.
But this is a different situation. In that game, it was a tie game in the middle innings. In this game, they have a 5-run lead.
Well, yeah, I know. I was surprised to see him out there at least long, but at one point, I wasn't surprised to see him. Get those outs against the media lineup. I would have taken him out after the double play. I wouldn't have had him come back out after that. I'm surprised he came out for the 9th, and they said they kind of had a miscommunication on warming somebody up. But at the same time, hey, you pitch your best when you need your best, when you have to win, and that's what they needed, and that's what they did.
And 20 pitches is not, like I said, it's not he went out there and threw so much more than he normally would have. That's just a few pitches longer than a normal outing. But I don't know. I think it kind of sends a message to your bullpen, like, "Hey, I'm ready. I can get this out." So
under the Little League World Series bylaws, he only threw 20 pitches, so he's allowed to pitch tomorrow.
Well, this is the majors, and I don't think they have any bylaws. But
needed to know that.
Well, I appreciate you filling me in on the Little League World Series rules.
And as it stands for the Indians, it's roughly, because I just did the calculations, I can't find it, 24,820
days. Okay, well,
roughly. That's not quite on the nose because I just did the calculation of the years between and 365 by that amount of years. But roughly to the day, I'm not sure what it is. They said last night, but I can't find it anywhere online.
So we have Game 7 tonight.
Yeah, we do.
So between these two teams, we have the Indians, postseason and regular season, playing 177 games. The Cubs, 179. And it all comes down to one game. The Indians will have their ace, Corey Kluber, on the mound, who has pitched phenomenal. He wins Game 1 and Game 4. He's only given up 1 run in the postseason, but he is pitching on short rest again for the second time now in the World Series.
Yeah.
And then for the other side, for the Cubs, you have Kyle Hendricks on the mound, who is the ERA champion and probably the favorite for the NL Cy Young, and has a scoreless inning streak in the postseason of 15.
But his best baseball is played at home.
True, but still,
Just made to be known.
I'd say maybe with the exception of John Lester for Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
there's no other pitcher these two teams would have on the mound in a Game 7 situation.
You don't think they'd want Arrieta after the kind of way he pitched last night? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying he can.
Hendricks had a better year than Arrieta. I'd go with Hendricks.
Postseason, though. I mean,
Postseason,
look
he's
at
got a
Arrieta's last
15
start before last night.
He's got a 15-inning scoreless streak going on.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying. I feel
And
like
all year
they
long,
could've
he's
gone
been
a couple
your
ways.
he's been your best pitcher. Although, like you said, his home and away numbers are not the same. But still, there's probably no one else you'd want to have on the mound, with the exception of maybe Lester.
I think as a Cubs fan, I would have been comfortable with kind of any of those top three really being up there. All I know is they're gonna have Lester available and Lackey available out of that bullpen. They
Lester would be on 2 days rest. Lackey would be on just about full. So
Lester's available.
maybe for a relief inning.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I'm not talking about starting. I'm talking.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of
out of the
them. Just
bullpen.
need an inning
Give him
and
an
a half.
inning or two. You tell me Hendricks gets you 4, Lester gets you 1 or 2, Lackey gets you 1, and you get Chapman in around the 8th. That's what they would be 100% okay with.
I'd say if Hendricks only gets you 4, then I'd say the Indians are probably winning that game. I think Hendricks needs to go at least 6, 5 or 6.
This has been a weird World Series where we've had guys be the quote-unquote winning pitcher that didn't get the decision because they didn't go long enough.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, if it gets kind of like shaky in a certain point, maybe Madden's all of a sudden just like, all right, never mind, whatever, let's go to the bullpen. If it's like a really close game, like it's one of those things where it's like this game means obviously everything, so it doesn't matter if you try to go, let's go 6 innings. No, I don't see you doing well after 3, you got to
Exactly,
go.
like we saw it with the World Series a couple of years ago with the Giants. I forget who the pitcher was. I want to say Zito maybe, where he struggled early, and I think within the 3rd they were in the bullpen, which they had. That was the year they tested out Lincecum going as a long reliever.
Right.
They'll do whatever they think they need to do to get a win.
Yeah.
And on
there's no game after today.
And with Chapman,
do what you need to do.
And with Chapman, they don't, not to be mean, but they don't care about his arm. He's a free agent after this year. Just get us through this one game kind of thing.
And he already said he wants to go back to New York, Aroldis Chapman. So I realize maybe if he wins the World Series with Chicago, it's a big market. They have a lot of money. Maybe he'll have a change of heart. But he was brought in to help them win the World Series. So that obviously they're gonna do that. You look at the Indian side; they have their full bullpen.
They do
of Miller, Shaw, and Allen already.
And Miller's wasn't used at all yesterday, and then not as much as the game before that. He's 100% ready.
Exactly. So you could maybe definitely 2 innings if the situation is there. Maybe even a little more.
No,
with Andrew Miller.
Yeah, imagine Kluber getting a start and maybe him only going about 4, and they get Andrew Miller in there. They're absolutely okay with that.
I'd say if they can get 5 out of Kluber, you have 6 and 7 for Miller, maybe a little more. You have Allen and Shaw for the 8th and the 9th. That'd be the perfect situation.
Yeah.
Also have to wait and see. But okay, guys, predictions.
I picked because you
said the Cubs.
because you picked the Indians outright, and you said Indians in 7.
I did.
I had to counter you and say, okay, well, I think based off starting pitching, that I would take the Cubs in 7. And I said that I thought the Cubs would win last night, but it's because in baseball, I was listening to Mike and Mike, right? For people who obviously know Mike and Mike, and he made a really good point. Excuse me. There's not really momentum in baseball. Not in the same way, at least. There's in-game momentum, but 2 games are 100% different than the other. It's like when you play football games, you're going to play a completely new game. Again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but you look back at the Giants in 2014, right? They lost 10-0 in Game 6 of the World Series, and they went on to win the next one at the Royals Stadium, like on the road, when momentum would have been in favor of the other team. And now that you look at the Cubs, they come off last night's win. They forced it to a Game 7. One would say momentum is in their favor, but at the same time, I wouldn't say they are favored in this game with the way that the Indians have it shaped out for their pitching to kind of win this one for them. I would say the Cubs' offense has been hotter than the Indians has been the last couple of games. Addison Russell isn't hitting often, but he's hitting it pretty much very important, significant hits. So I think if they can get to Kluber, which that's an obvious easy answer, then we're talking. But I think the problem is to get to Kluber is the thing. I still have to go by what I said and say Cubs in 7, but it's going to be hard for the Cubs to, I think, win this one. But I could be completely wrong. I thought last night it'd be hard, and they just jumped out. So,
yeah, no, I'll go with the Cubs. One thing you talked about momentum, I remember, like it's something I'll always remember about 2004 with the Yankees Red Sox. The game before, they basically came back and won the Yankees beat them 19-8, just in the giant big game, and then 4 straight after that. So momentum's is kind of a weird thing. If your pitcher the next game decides to go 9 innings, shutout.
I think it exists in baseball. I just don't think it's a thing like you can see like football, like at halftime. Say somebody scores right before halftime and then comes to get the ball after halftime, and the momentum thing is different. Right. I think it exists in a sense in baseball, and definitely in a mental standpoint.
Because to be fair, the Red Sox with that series, by the time it was Game 7, it was like, no, they're going to win. Like,
exactly. In a standpoint of mentally, when you have a team that's like, geez, we can't. Then I get that, but I think at the same time you look at it and you'd be like, oh, all the momentum, and it just goes nowhere like you think it will.
Yeah, I think I would think the Cubs would win, but if they do win, like we talked about with Miller, Shaw, everybody else, you're gonna have to get your runs basically in the first 4 innings.
Yeah, they're gonna need to get to Kluber, I think, just like they got to Tomlin last night. You get to him, get some to run their way. That was an error. It wasn't a double. Obviously, it didn't touch anybody. No, I'm not saying it was. I'm saying the way it was the play. Rolled out that
there was definitely a lack of communication.
Yeah, they should have got out of that inning 1-0. Regroup from there. You're still in a fine position. Your team is putting up runs, and obviously it snowballed from there. And I think as soon as that happened, I know they kind of got them a few more runs here and there. But I was like, no, this game's out of hand. You look for moments like that in baseball games, and that was that moment.
I took the Indians in 7, so of course I'm going to stay with my prediction. But honestly, I'm with you guys. I think this can go either way. The pitching matchup is, I'd say, pretty much identical. The only downfall, I'd say, is Kluber's on short rest again. He's going for his 3rd time now, so maybe the Cubs can maybe find a way to get around him, seeing him a 3rd time now in games. So I think that's maybe an advantage for Chicago. Also, you have the difference maker at DH with Kyle Schwarber. He's hitting .333 in the years.
I said that yesterday's episode going, and I said it's a big boost for the Cubs to get Schwarber back in the lineup because obviously he's not cleared to play in the outfield. So all he's
absolutely
do for you is hit, and I'm not sure how much he pinch hit while they're in Chicago, but it
was,
it was an offensive boost all around.
He's capable of going yard anytime he steps up there at the plate. So I think that's a boost. But as I said, I took Indians in 7 from the get go, so I got to stick with it.
I mean, I respect that again. I'm not so sure about tonight, but I have to stand by what I said about the Cubs going
exactly.
7. But at least we were right about them going 7.
We were. I saw this. I really saw this coming. Both pitching matchups great. The Indians were playing hot so far in this postseason. The Cubs have been the best team all year long. So they've kind of faced adversity as well. In the Giants, they were down 2-1 against the Dodgers. Now they come back down 3-1 to even the series. So definitely shows a lot of heart in this young Chicago team.
And for those wondering, the Cubs are currently favored in Game 7 by about an opening about 7. So they're favored by a little bit, about 10. In the difference there. So for those betting people out there you go.
Yeah, baseball's hard to bet.
I don't like to bet in the first place. I don't get these whole over-under kind of opening thing. It's dumb.
Yeah, baseball's a little different. So what they do with baseball is it'll usually be like minus and then a certain number. Like I'm going to throw like 140, for instance. So you'd have to bet $140 to win 100 back.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's just wacky. I don't like that.
Yeah, the baseball spread stuff is kind of weird.
Yeah. All right, we're going to end on one kind of just crazy things people do for fans do for sports before we take a break, and that is a man. This is what dedication looks like. It's a Cubs fan named Brian Newport drove 800 miles from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to watch last night's game at the Cubby Bear. It's across the street from Wrigley. He was the first in line to get there. He got there at 6:45 a.m. He drove 800 miles just to sit in a bar across the street from Wrigley. That's dedication right there.
I don't understand that. The game's not even at Wrigley. So it's not like you can feel off some of the fan momentum and crowd noise.
That's the bar they kept showing last night, I think. The one that was just absolutely packed with people.
Right, but I just don't really understand that.
Maybe that's the thing he's doing as a kid. Maybe that is kind of the bar that they take their huge not home game crowds too, There you go. That's what you look at.
I mean, my living room looks a lot better. There's no lines in the bathroom. I don't have to pay for my drinks. And no one's making noise so I can hear the game myself.
Fans love it, man. Fans love it.
I don't know. Everybody's different, so.
This is very true. All right, we're going to take our first break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk more fun things, especially related to college football here in just a minute at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching.
Hey!
The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We are switching gears, talking college football. Last night we had the first college football playoff rankings revealed. No real surprise in 1, 2, and 3. Alabama, Clemson, Michigan. Clemson does switch Michigan with the coaches poll, so Michigan at 2, Clemson at 2 with the college football rankings. I'm not really surprised there. I think Clemson has a much better resume so far than Michigan has. Mm-hmm. But the big surprise is at number 4. You would assume it would be Washington with their undefeated record, but not so fast, my friend. Texas A&M moving up to number 4 in the college football playoff rankings. They're number 7 in the AP Top 25. Surprises?
Nope. I called literally this on the football show yesterday. I said to me, Bama, Clemson, Michigan. I thought they'd switch them, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if a team like A&M jumped Washington.
I mean, it makes sense. Washington's resume, not the greatest, although they are still undefeated. Not a good non-conference schedule. Their best win of the year so far last week against Utah, a game that was tied with 3 minutes left before they ran back a punt return for a touchdown to ultimately win the game. So not real surprised to see them at 5. I am kind of surprised to see Texas A&M at 4, though. I would have thought if anybody would have jumped, it would have maybe been Louisville.
Yeah, I would say it wouldn't be Ohio State because the strength of that loss that they had was much worse than Texas A&M losing to only an Alabama school. Louisville only lost to Clemson, and that was by inches, so I would have said it would have been between them and Texas A&M for sure to jump somebody, but that would have entailed you jumping 3 spots relatively for Louisville. If you look at it as the polls that stand, as of Sunday, when it was just AP in the top in the coaches poll, they were listed at 7, so they would have been jumping quite a ways. I could understand maybe Washington staying where they were, Louisville jumping in front of Texas A&M, then Texas A&M, Ohio State, because, again, the strength of the loss compared to Ohio State and Louisville there. But, again, I don't think this is going to stay this way. I still think there's a very good chance Ohio State beats Michigan with the way these two teams play each other and the way they're built, and that would really shake up this ranking system pretty heavily. I still think there's also a chance Washington loses this end of this year. They have Cal, they have Washington State, and they have USC all to face, I think, only 2 of those. I think 2 of those are on the road for Washington also. So, the Apple Cup's never an easy win for them. USC's on a 4-game win streak, and Cal's shown they can put up points now against an elite Pac-12 defense that Washington currently shows. We'll have to see if that's the case. But, I think Michigan is still in a spot to lose. Texas A&M can still lose, and Washington can all still lose. So that can really make this look a lot different than it is as of right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that – all this can shake out, call it 2 weeks from now. If they lose, if Washington loses, if A&M loses again, if Michigan loses, whoever loses. A little bit of an SEC thing going on here because you got 5 of the top 13 SEC schools. You get the thing where, like you said, they only lost to Alabama. And if you lose to Alabama, they pretty much don't really care about that. It's one of those things like, oh, you lost, and it was a relatively close game. So they were just like, all right, it's fine, whatever.
Well, it was – if you mean the Alabama over A&M game?
Yeah.
That was not a close game.
Well, I mean, considering how Alabama's been playing the whole year, outside of that game against Tennessee, which was really close, they've basically been destroying everybody else they were playing.
Well, they beat A&M 33-14, and I wouldn't really say it was a close game at most points.
So you take, Texas A&M, the games they have coming up, you got Mississippi State, you got Ole Miss, are the only 2 games that really matter. Everything else is New Mexico and I think Utah State. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where you'll obviously at least go 2-2, and if you can beat, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, they'll probably stay in the top 4, and it all depends if Michigan can basically stay undefeated against Ohio State and if Clemson can stay undefeated, because you assume Alabama probably will.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing that hurts a school like Louisville in terms of jumping up is if Ohio State defeats Michigan, I say it's game over for Louisville to get in, purely because Louisville's remaining schedule, you have Boston College, you have Wake Forest, you have Houston, which looked like a good matchup early in the year. It no longer is, and you have the University of Kentucky. To end your year off that, regardless of if you do that without losing again, Ohio State has to say they win, right? Their remaining schedule as it stands currently is they have Michigan to end the year. They have Michigan State also. They have Nebraska, who's ranked 10th this week. And then they have in between those two games, so Nebraska, then they have Maryland, so they should probably handle that one just fine. And then again, like I said, Michigan and Michigan State, flip those, Michigan State, Michigan to end the year. I think the biggest thing is they lost to Penn State, which isn't a hugely strong loss, in my opinion. So I think if Washington keeps winning, Texas A&M keeps winning, neither of those teams really sniff it because of the fact that strength schedule and strength of the loss there for Ohio State.
If Ohio State beat Michigan at the end of the year, you have Michigan with one loss and Louisville with one loss. I give the edge to Michigan. If we were to have a non-conference team get in, I'd definitely give the edge to Michigan there, because if Ohio State control their own destiny, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, and also think about all the playoffs you're going to have too.
And I honestly, although Washington's sit at 5 right now, I think they control their own destiny as well. If they finish undefeated, they win the Pac-12 championship game against whoever it will be. They might be ranked 5 right now, but I think that's kind of irrelevant. They will be in the top 4.
Yeah, I think if they win out, they're going to sit there regardless of the fact of their kind of weaker schedule. I think, like I said, they have a very very possible chance to lose to any of those 3 teams I mentioned. Plus, one would assume their Pac-12 championship game would be against Utah, who they just narrowly beat. Thanks to some special team work, I think that they could very well be in another close game with Utah. I think if it comes down to that and they lose to Utah again, then they probably fall out of really contention there for that. I think the teams with the SEC bias, the Big 12 or the Big 10, kind of schools looked at there with Ohio State, and then the SEC there sitting in the top. I think they would surpass them purely based off of the bias in that sense or the strength of their schedule.
I think they need to be undefeated to get in. I
think so too.
I think USC's definitely a tough game. Washington State's actually ranked top 25. They're actually 25 in both the college football playoff polls and the AP top 25 polls.
And coaches poll.
So
all 3 of them.
Well, there you go, buddy.
All consistency.
But I think if they lose one of those games to whoever it is and still win the Pac-12, even with one loss, I think they'll get jumped by a non-conference team because of their lack of scheduling. Their scheduling is not very good. Their non-conference is against Rutgers, Idaho, and Portland State. And these other schools have a lot better. Clemson has a win over Auburn on the road, who sit 9th right now. Beginning of the year, you thought that was just a decent SEC team. Now it looks like a really good team. So Clemson are definitely in good position. Bama, I'd say the winner of Michigan and Ohio State is definitely in. And then it depends really on that game. Like, for instance, let's say Ohio State defeat Michigan just narrowly. Michigan with one loss, barely to Ohio State. Would they jump over Washington with one loss but won their conference? I say yes.
Yeah, Michigan is going to be in there no matter what if there's a kind of finish like that. I think if they have a similar record to Washington, they would jump them because that strength of their loss to Ohio State would be stronger than I think any strength of a win that Washington came up with this year. Because like I said, they have, I think it's SC and then Cal and then Arizona State and then Washington State. Like, that's not the most impressive looking, list of people you defeated. I mean, again, the most impressive win for them was Utah. Yes, Colorado's ranked, but they didn't play Colorado this year, and Colorado was just kind of thrown up in there the last while. So,
and that Stanford game that they won now doesn't look as good as when
Stanford,
they were ranked 7th.
Exactly, and when they were ranked 7th, they were an imposter at number 7. People have Washington State's beaten Stanford. Washington beat Stanford. A lot of teams have made Stanford not look like the team they were looking to be heading into this year. So that strength of that win is kind of gone now. I mean, you look at their schedule, and it's just like I remember when they were in the top 10 and they were like 6 or 7, and they had the second lowest strength of schedule in the entire countdown. I mean, you had Rutgers, Idaho, Portland State, Arizona. You had Stanford, who was 7, but they beat them 44-6, and since we saw they were kind of an imposter. Oregon, they beat them 70-21, not a Oregon typical year, and then Oregon State 41-17, and then the Utah game last week they only won by a touchdown. I think this team's good, but I don't think it's elite good in terms of this countdown.
Absolutely, I don't either.
As it stands, say they were 4, they would play Bama, and Bama, in my opinion, would roll them. So
I think they'd get rolled by any of the top 3 schools right now. So Clemson, Bama, Michigan, in any of that order. I think Washington's good, but they're not anywhere near those schools. I think, like you said, they would get. No pun intended, but the rolling tide would roll them.
Yeah, I think they would handle their business. I mean, it's a different thing when Pac-12 schools that are on the cusp of this kind of skill, we're not talking the USCs of the mid-2000s. We're talking, Washington now, who is not a bad team, but you go and play the best team, arguably, in college football, every year with Alabama. That's a different type of opponent. They didn't face anything close to that. Rutgers and Idaho State didn't prepare you for Alabama game. Or Idaho, excuse me.
And neither did any school in the Pac-12, really, in my eyes. So
yeah,
that defensive line for Alabama might be the best that we've seen in years.
Exactly. The unfortunate thing about it is the Pac-12 was somewhat weak this year. I mean, yes, Stanford was ranked high at one point, but they fell out. As it stands, you have, I think, 4 teams in the top 25 if you include, I think, Colorado's in the AP top 25, but you have Utah, Washington State, and like I said, I think Colorado. But those aren't amazing rankings, all over. I mean, Colorado, technically speaking, is in first place of the South as it stands, with a 4-1 overall record, 6-2 overall record. So as it stands, they would be in first place. So again, that looks good inside your conference, but compared to an SEC conference, I mean, even schools with 3 losses would be considered by a lot of people to be better than that.
Right.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. It's still really early. We still have 4 or 5 games for a lot of these schools still. So what the rankings are right now is kind of irrelevant. We'll have to wait and see as they go on.
In the first 3 weeks.
Right. Like, there's a lot of people don't think we should have a top 25 poll until October. I wouldn't necessarily say that because you have to give reasons for people to talk about things. So,
yeah.
But nevertheless, the College Football Playoff Committee is definitely taking in strength of schedule very serious, and it's something that you have to take serious now. And I think Washington probably okay, you know what? For the next couple of years we make our schedule, let's not schedule 3 cupcakes, and maybe we'll do 1.
Yeah.
And then we'll try to schedule not Alabama, maybe we'll try and schedule a middle team, like maybe Tennessee, maybe Florida.
Let's get Ole Miss in here.
Yeah, exactly. let's get someone.
Get Auburn up in this.
Let's get someone in here that says, hey, we actually beat a school from a Power 5 conference. Not that we beat Sacramento State or something, you know what I mean?
Or Portland State.
Right, let's get someone in here that will maybe raise some attention. Because in all due fairness, Texas A&M has done that. The week 1, they go out and beat UCLA, who started the season ranked. They've fallen off, but they're going out there playing a tough school on the Pac-12. Although they did play them in A&M, still they're going out there on a limb and scheduling at least one good non-conference matchup. And you have to do that now if you want to get taken serious with how the playoff committee is ranking teams.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think this will be a little different in the next few weeks. I mean, again, anybody can beat anybody in college football, so this could be drastically changed. I think the only for certain is Bama at number 1, and that's just because it's Bama.
Unless they lose, absolutely. I mean, they've looked by far the most impressive team
that's
in
what I
college
mean. I don't
football.
see them losing.
I really don't either. It seems like every year Alabama has that one loss, that one hiccup. The last couple of years has been Ole Miss. I just don't see it this year.
No, I don't see them losing. I don't know.
Maybe LSU, a tough game this week. LSU's playing a lot better, but
yeah, I mean LSU has shown that they can beat Bama, but not in a few years, at least.
We'll have to wait and see, man.
A few years. I forget what Bama's schedule is other than LSU. They have LSU, Mississippi State, Chattanooga, and Auburn the end of the year.
I mean, Chattanooga are really playing great right now.
Look at Auburn. They did it a few years ago.
That's
They're
true.
Currently ranked 9. We'll see. That might be a big matchup for them to end the year.
Or Chattanooga. I mean, don't sleep on them.
You're right. Don't sleep on the Chattanooga Mocs.
They might just 8-1.
8-1.
They are 8-1, but
see, Alabama's going on and playing a tough non-conference schedule. Chattanooga, I mean,
that matchup predictor has 99.3% for Alabama.
Listen, when you go over the team's
so
name,
you're telling me there's a chance?
Very slight.
Listen, when you can go over the team's name and it lights up because you can click it as a link.
Yes.
You can't do that with Chattanooga. They're not available to click.
That tells me everything I need to know about them. I can't click my link on Chattanooga. That means nothing.
It means they're not available for comment. Anyways, we're going to take a last break. We're going to come back and do a little bit of what's trending here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hey, we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, and we're starting with What's Trending, and I believe Ben is going to start this one.
All right, guys. So before I do my trending, we kind of have some breaking news.
What?
So offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, Norv Turner, has just resigned.
Resigned?
Yes. Norv Turner, offensive coordinator of the Vikings, has resigned. So Pat Shurmur, who is the tight end coach for Minnesota, is going to be taking over as their offensive coordinator. A guy Sam Bradford's pretty familiar with. He was his offensive coordinator in 2010 with St. Louis and then last year with Philly. So kind of some unfortunate events there for Norv Turner. A great offensive mind, former coach of the Chargers.
He was the big offensive mind behind the dynasty of the Cowboys in the 90s.
Yeah, so he's kind of decided to hang up his cleats, if you want to call them those.
Loafers.
Hang up
his visor.
Hang up his New Balance tennis shoes.
Hang up his...
Doesn't he sit in the press box, like hang up his headset?
Hang up his Minnesota Vikings polo.
So he's definitely resigning and moving on from there.
Yeah, they're the fourth team, to change their offensive coordinator since the start of the year.
Which, I mean, Norv Turner, whoever's offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur, I don't think it really matters as long as they have those offensive tackles they do.
Dude, those things are like saloon doors.
They're just inviting you to come on in. Like, you all you have to do is push them aside.
Like, I heard Sam said he wanted you to go over there and sack him. Come on in.
Oh man, that offensive line is historically bad, and it's obviously proof. We saw what the Bears did to them. The Bears, man.
The defense is not bad in terms of a rush defense. It's not great, but in regards to their offense, nothing's going to happen with that offense if they can't protect that quarterback because you can't get anything going.
Exactly.
It's just a fact.
Exactly. So we'll have to see how Minnesota does with Pat Shurmur now at playing or signaling the plays. So.
Well, thank you for your What's Trending, Ben. We're going to move on. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
That wasn't my story.
Go ahead.
Okay, guys. So obviously Game 7 tonight. I know, Anthony, you said that if there happened to be a game-winning Game 5 for the Cubs, you were thinking about flying to Chicago to be in that city.
Yes.
Okay, but how much would you be willing to pay for a Game 7 ticket is the question.
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong. I never said I was going to go to the game. Like, no, because that's going to be like
No, I know.
That's going to be like 10 grand. How much would I pay to
I'm
go?
just asking you, like, what would you be honestly willing to pay if you had a chance to go to Game 7 tonight, but you had to pay it?
$70.
What's like your...
That's my limit.
What's like the top of your mountain? Like, okay, I'm not going any higher than this.
I mean, I don't have the funds necessarily go like thousands of dollars, so I'm going to go like, say, $200-$300 maybe max, but that's not going to get me any kind of ticket.
I'll go 75 and that's it.
$75?
I'm calling it there.
You can't go to anything for $75.
You can't go to anything for $200-$300
for $12.
I'm talking about a sporting event.
I'm sure I can get a decent ticket to
the Browns,
the Sac State baseball game coming up.
Okay. Well, we'll just move on from there. But anyways, guys, so if you were looking to find a nice seat right behind the Cubs dugout.
Oh, that's pricey.
Okay, predictions. What do you guys think?
Double-digit thousands, like higher than 10.
That could be anything. That could be 10 to like 99.
Well, see, it's tricky because there's regular tickets and then there's resale tickets, and somebody resold tickets to Game 1 for $64,000. So I don't know if I can legitimately give you a straight-up answer. I'm saying at least $10,000 more, plus.
Okay,
I'll go 25.
Okay, so if you're looking at a ticket right behind the Cubs dugout, you're looking at $19,500. For just a seat, maybe 15 to 30 rows back, you're looking at a face value of $300, but for this game, you're looking at about $4,500.
Now, what about a seat at the highest seat possible in left field up against, like, if it was AT&T Park, against the chain link fence up there?
Right.
They have? Not literal chain link like you can look back there, but, I've sat as high as I can possibly sit at that stadium. What is that seat looking like?
I'm not sure because I don't have that stat there, but I do have the stats of Game 6's and Game 7's ticket prices since 2001 in the World Series. The highest one before Game 7 here was actually last night at an average of about $1,700. For tonight, you're looking at an average of about $4,700 just for a ticket. I've never. I don't care who it is.
Maybe Marlins man can do that, but not me.
I wouldn't even pay that much to go to like a World Cup final, and I'm a soccer guy.
What if it was like the best World Cup final?
No, my TV looks a lot better.
But it's history. You could say you were there.
I could say I was anywhere.
That's true.
But you'll have pictures as proof.
I could have a green. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so just an average asking price for a ticket, $4,700.
That's insane. If you look back, especially, I'd love to see what the average asking price for a ticket was the last time these two teams won a World Series. What was it in 1908? What was it in 1948?
$10.
Yeah, right?
Like
it's like the
something
first Super
around
Bowl
that.
ticket was like $5 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Super Bowl tickets, thousands of dollars now.
Yeah, this is
insane in the
absolutely
membrane.
outrageous. And here's why I wouldn't go, for two reasons. One, the money's not worth it. My TV looks a lot better. Number two, say I'm just a diehard Cubs fan. I pay $19,500 to sit right behind the dugout, and they lose like 10-1.
You pay $19,000 to be sad.
Exactly. Like what if we saw
You could be sad
in
for free.
game number 4, the Indians won 7-1. What if you're witnessing that like right there, and you're just like,
Well, that was a waste of my
exactly, like,
college
well, that was nice.
repaying money. Yeah.
Like, I understand if you have the money, like if you're a celebrity or something. Like the
Marlins
celebrities were
man,
having a lot of fun with the games at Wrigley. You had Bill
John
Murray, you had
Hamm.
Vince Vaughn singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So you have the money, but if you're just an average, banker or a businessman, like never,
Fair enough.
no way.
All right.
But anyways, I mean, there you go.
Well, I'm glad I hear that now. Anthony, would you like to go?
Yeah, all right. So mine's going to be a little bit, it's a different sport.
Oh, okay.
We're going to go Joakim Noah.
Oh, basketball. Oh, we're gonna get the three major sports going. Okay, I like it.
Joakim Noah is
And
somebody.
the taco truck going.
And the taco truck. We're going to get Joakim Noah, who's a basketball player.
He is. I've heard of him.
He's a very good basketball player at one time.
He's good at certain things.
Yes, the jump shot is not one of them. He airballed a shot, and there's 3 things with this shot. One, he's got the bandage or whatever that's on his ear.
So you think it messed up his center of
It
gravity?
makes it equilibrium.
He's
Yeah,
equal-
jacks that
Experiencing a
up.
little vertigo.
His center of balance is off.
He may have traveled when he first got the ball.
May have.
And he airballed it, but it's not just that he airballed because people have airballed in the past. He didn't hit the net, not the bottom of the net, not the top. Like he didn't hit anything. It's just the
not a piece
full
of it.
3-foot short airball.
Did you see it, Ben?
I did. I witnessed this.
It was horrible.
It was
great.
It was
I don't know what you mean
pleasantly
about-
horrible.
I don't know what you mean about maybe traveling. That dude was like walking across the crosswalk.
Yeah,
But they do this all the time in the NBA. They never call travels.
I know, and then
No.
they call it the stupidest moment.
They never call travels. And Joakim Noah, obviously we know he's not a jump shooter. And like just the way his release where he kind of like flicks it off to the side like he's doing like a freestyle swimming stroke and the ball
That's going to
spins.
kill any power you have behind it.
The ball spins like a globe instead of like rolling traditionally with the backspin or he rolls like a globe sideways. I don't know how he makes anything,
it's like a
period.
knuckleball coming out.
Joakim Noah is a great player when it comes to hustle. He's like a hustle player. He's going to track down the loose balls. He's going to pick up rebounds, put backs. But, I mean, anytime I will sit 5-6 feet back at all times and just invite him to please take a free throw line extended jumper.
The other thing I realized about the shot was you got Andre Drummond who's defending him. And when I say defending him, he's as close as I am to that door over there, which is about like 10 feet away. Like he doesn't even try and defend him. He just looks at him like, are you going to do it? I dare you. Okay, you're going to do it? Ha! All right, cool.
Now check it out. And then he goes, oh, God, Lord.
I mean,
He's not a big man who can shoot. Let's
No.
put it that way. Let's put it that way.
definitely not.
All right, let's end this off on a football story, and we're going to talk poor old Knile Davis.
Oh,
Knile Davis, who was with the Chiefs, and they were like, we're okay. Jamal Charles is healthy again. Spencer Ware's playing well. We have Sharkhandrick West. We're going to, trade you. Hopefully you can get an opportunity somewhere to trade him to the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers lost their 2 leading rushers to injury. They had some younger guys come up, but it was Knile Davis. You're like, yeah, give him a couple weeks. He should be the leading guy there until Starks would be able to come back. Well, they traded him. They released him. The Jets.
Just 2 games after.
2 games afterwards. The Jets claimed him. They did so on Tuesday for a few hours, and then officially put him on waivers at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here. They signed C.J. Spiller. Now, apparently, the interesting thing enough is the Jets were already in negotiations with C.J. Spiller, but they hadn't received any kind of commitment. So when Knile Davis became a free agent, they're like, oh, let's claim him. A few hours after acquiring Davis, the Jets were like, oh, okay, this deal with Spiller's done. I guess let that Davis kid go. So after about, maybe 6 hours, he went from one team to no team pretty quickly there. And I feel bad for the guy. This is like some video game stuff, you know. They're like releasing him, be like he's not a real person.
And then you'd think, obviously, he has maybe a home in Kansas City. You have Jamal Charles go back on IR. You have Spencer Ware kind of banged up. So you have the only healthy running back is Kendrick West. It's like, Knile knows our offense. He was just here for the last few years, and we got rid of him. It's like
he played well when Jamal Charles went down the first time.
He had a kickoff return for a touchdown last year, so he can contribute on special teams. Like, hey, maybe we should just bring Niles back. It's like, nope, we're going to Bishop Sankey, who used to play for the Titans and has been
quote play
unemployed for quite some time now. Let's go to Bishop Sankey. He's just like, well, no. I feel bad for the guy. It's like, okay, I'm a healthy scratch in Kansas City. There's a lot of guys ahead of me. Okay, I'll go to Green Bay. I got some chances here. Like 2 games. Okay, you're gone.
Yeah, in 2 games, he carried the ball 5 times for 5 yards.
Let's take him to, okay, New York claim me. I'm on my way there. I'm flying there. Hey, Knile, you might want to turn that plane around. We're just actually picking up C.J. Spiller, who's been a free agent since week 1. Like,
C.J. Spiller was with the Seahawks.
The end of week 1.
He was released by the Saints on September 13th with a little more than a year into his 4-year, $18 million contract. The Seahawks promptly signed him, and then he scored a touchdown in week 4. Since then, he was released only a month after that. He only rushed 3 times for 9 yards. So
he's practically been a free agent.
Pretty much.
And then it's like, okay, I'll go to New York. Like, oh, wait, actually, we're bringing in CJ. Oh, all right, I'm going to turn the plane around.
No, C.J. Spiller. No, C.J. Spiller. Oh.
And then, he talks to his agent. You know, Kansas City needs some help. Actually, they just signed Bishop Sankey.
So no.
And he's like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I'll go where I wanted.
Poor Knile.
Poor Knile, man. I like Knile Davis. It's too bad.
It's pretty funny though. I do feel bad for the guy.
I do too. Poor fella.
I guess
has more talent than people give him credit for.
It's a replacement league, so
yeah, it's not. It stands for not for long. The NFL. That's what they say. Not for long. But not for long also stands and is relevant to this show because this episode is over. As always, we'll be back tomorrow. It'll be just Anthony and I, but we will miss you tomorrow, Ben, because we'll be talking World Series results, man. It's going to be over tomorrow.
I appreciate you guys will miss me. It really touches me deep down in my heart.
Okay, well, anyways, we're going to be talking whoever won this one, if you're right or if I'm right. And if I'm right.
Well, Anthony as well. He did pick the Cubs tonight.
I picked the Cubs. I just didn't think it was going to go 7 games like you guys did. You guys have a little bit more.
I'm a clairvoyant.
For once, I got a prediction right because my predictions on this show suck. I'm going to be the first one to admit that.
To be fair, we've both been pretty bad sometimes.
Especially with very bad.
Especially with our Monday night prediction.
Oh yeah, well, I don't see any reason the Bears can win unless they get to Sam Bradford. So I said how they would win, and that's what happened.
We did say that,
but nevertheless, we both did think Minnesota would win comfortably.
This is true. But anyways, we will be gone until tomorrow morning. Again, tonight is the World Series. Watch it. You'll see some history being made as a team will win for the first time in over 70 years almost. And Anthony and I will be back tomorrow to discuss said game. Ben will be back on Friday. I will not be, so I'm sorry, Ben, but I will see you later, alligator.
You'll see me on Monday.
Yes, you will. Until tomorrow, Anthony and I would like to thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I guess Ben would like to thank you, too.
Yes, thank you for listening.
So thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. As always, I'm Alex.
I am Ben.
And I'm Anthony.
And we will see you guys tomorrow morning. You enjoy the World Series, any other sports you'd like to watch, and we will talk then. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.